thanks to Asmodee for sponsoring this video. After 2 years in early access, with the developers giving a ton of new content, bug fixes, and polish to it, one of the most complicated, deep, and difficult strategy board games in Gloomhaven is now going to be one of the hardest, difficult, deep, strategic video games you could get your hands on. And if you're like me and had never played Gloomhaven before this, strap in. This game will not hold your hand, and it is going to kill you relentlessly over and over. But what you get in return for that difficulty is a satisfaction over the decisions and your own strategic brilliance as you move through these difficult levels for the treasure, mission, and loot waiting for you at the end. Gloomhaven in many ways is a storytelling machine where you take a band of mercenaries and try to make do with what you can in a world that is filled with hostile creatures trying to kill anything and anyone. And being able to create your own team with 17 playable one-of-a-kind mercenaries, each with its own set of abilities for 1,000 unique abilities to master, you'll certainly have the tools at your fingertips to master this difficult game. But I don't want you to suffer like me. So I compiled a list of the 5 best tips that I could think of for brand new players walking into Gloomhaven that I personally wish I had done when I started playing. And if you're watching this and you're a veteran to Gloomhaven, either the tabletop or the video game, drop your tips in the comment section below to help all of us out who are still just getting into it. With that said, let's dive in. This first tip might seem silly for a lot of people, because I just normally skip over these things. But for God's sake, don't make the mistake I did. Please play the tutorial. I know it's really tempting to say, no, I've played a ton of strategy games before. Hell, I've played games with a card-based combat system like Gloomhaven has. I should be able to make this work. Swallow your ego, sir, and just give an hour of your time to the tutorial and learn the intricacies that is Gloomhaven. The tutorial will take you about an hour or so, as I said, to get through. But it is so entirely necessary for those who have never played the game before. Not only, like any tutorial, will they cover all the basic controls for the game, but they're also going to help you learn and understand the deeper mechanics, synergies, combat, and how all the classes work and interact with each other. Walking into Gloomhaven without playing the tutorial and having never played Gloomhaven before is like walking into a boxing match being thrilled that you knocked out your younger brother 10 years ago. You're just not gonna survive. This next tip also might seem a little silly, but I promise will pay out in the end. When you make your first save file, make it your throwaway save file. Even after the tutorial teaching you how all the mechanics of the games work, there is no way for the game to prepare you just how many combos and synergies are built into the game's combat system. And you're gonna make mistakes, and death is gonna happen. Don't be afraid to play around with those different character combos and card synergies though. That first save file may not truly see a lot of success, but in it, you'll find the learning aspect will carry that second save file where now you know what you're doing just a little bit better. While there are card interactions that you would expect in a game like this, they are vast and often have surprising effects if you weren't reading the fine details of the ability. So make a separate save file, mess around with things, find your favorite combos, and embrace f***ing it all up. The game is out to kill you after all. So you've done the tutorial, maybe you created a separate save file, but for your first full playthrough, you're not sure which mode to go with. Well, I'm here to tell you, just play guild mode. If you're like me and you never played the tabletop version of this game that it's adapted from, then you'll want to start with Guildmaster mode. Guildmaster mode is a semi-sandbox campaign where you'll manage all the different characters of your mercenary band. You'll have unique interactions on the world map and be able to build out your guild and loot the more you play. Each of your characters and mercenaries each will have their own story missions dedicated directly to them and their characters. This only happens in Guildmaster mode. But if Guildmaster mode ain't your cup of tea, you can remain true to the original board game campaign. A faithful adaptation of the board game campaign with 95 story and event missions that were promised at the start of early access way back in 2019. So consider Guildmaster mode the most video game-y version of Gloomhaven that you can play while still maintaining most of the difficulty that the board game offers. All right, we're feeling good. We've got tutorials under our belt, a throwaway save file. We're messing around in guild mode now. All right, the combat is still kicking your ass. Well, I got another tip for you. You're gonna be so surprised at what it is. You gotta pay attention to your surroundings. Whoa, mind blown. This is more important in this game than in a lot of other strategy games that you've probably played in the past. Effectively managing your space is going to be the difference between life and death, and each round can be the difference between that life and death. Each map will offer different tactical advantages and disadvantages to work with. Some will be more open, while others more tight. Know the strengths of the mercs that you're bringing and use the terrain to your advantage. Even the choice of mercs that you take on missions will completely change how you want to operate within a given terrain. Simple things like loot. Loot isn't taken from the area at the end of a mission. Instead, you have to end a character's turn on top of the loot while combat is still happening. And in this game, money is everything. You'll have to plan your movements ahead to ensure you're ending a turn on top of gold or loot, because once you beat all those enemies in a given mission area, the mission ends, leaving behind what you never picked up. So yeah, not only will you have to pay attention to your surroundings and the given map that you're on, but you have to make sure you're paying attention to the given loot that's popping up as the combat's going. And should you miscalculate one time, cross your fingers it doesn't end one of your mercenaries. Gloomhaven is no doubt great alone. Deep strategically, a great video game campaign style with Guildmaster mode, plenty of opportunity for you to master the game. But once you throw in another friend or two and you start playing with others, the flavor and feel of Gloomhaven changes phenomenally. The strategy with others ends up being more satisfying, racing for different treasure chests or loot to get to it before them, or just desperately trying to save your friend before their character loses that last piece of health and dies right before your very eyes. When I said in the beginning that this game is very cinematic and sort of a story generator, it doubles that when you throw a friend into the mix. Those tense moments of life and death between you, there's no such adrenaline feeling like that. Especially when I get to sit there and watch Dean die from a distance. A pleasure like no other. So if this sounds all fun to you, go check out Gloomhaven. The link is in the description below. And thanks to the devs for sponsoring this video. And I'll give you one more bonus tip before we say goodbye. There is no shame in choosing the easy difficulty. Just tell your friends that you play on hard. They'll never know.